I gave her the bracelet. She gasped, she smiled, she lied. I caught the flash of gold under her sleeve, 2 tiny letters that punched the air from my lungs. My world tilted. My future cracked. Across the table, she kept pretending. I led her. I fed her dessert. I kissed her goodnight. But inside, something old and cruel had already started plotting. What I did next would tear her life apart, piece by beautiful piece. If you'd asked me that night, sitting across the candlelit table from Vanessa, if I was happy, I probably would have said yes, or at least yes enough. That was before the bracelet, before the secret, before the part of me that still believed in her shattered into something sharp and cold. We were at the rooftop restaurant she loved, the kind with overpriced cocktails and tiny plates they called artisan. She wore a deep red dress, one that used to knock the air out of my lungs back when we were younger and dumber. Tonight she smiled at me across the table, not wide, not beaming, but tight, like someone wearing a mask that was just starting to crack. Still, I told myself it was nerves, work stress, life stress. I'd been telling myself a lot of things lately. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the small box I'd been carrying around like a secret. A silver bracelet. Simple, clean design. I had it engraved inside, something private, just for her, always us. She gasped, hands flying to her mouth. Real or fake, I couldn't tell anymore. I slid it over her wrist. For a second, it caught the light beautifully. And that's when I saw it. Another bracelet, thin and gold, half hidden under the sleeve of her dress. She shifted, maybe feeling my gaze, but not fast enough. The gold caught the light too, and my heart stopped. There, on the inside curve, just above her pulse point, 2 letters were etched in small, curling script. JT. My stomach twisted so hard it felt like the floor tilted under me. My mind tried to make excuses faster than my eyes could betray me. Maybe it's her friend Jessica Taylor? The lies I told myself were almost impressive. She laughed, lightly, as she admired the bracelet I gave her. It's perfect, she said, voice sweet, eyes just a little too bright. I smiled. I smiled so damn hard my face ached. I said, I'm glad you like it. While inside me, something cold and ancient started to stir. I didn't ask about the other bracelet. Not then. I didn't accuse. Didn't shout. I simply filed it away, tucked the pain somewhere deep where it couldn't distract me. Not until I was ready. She chatted through dinner, about work, her promotion, the trip she wanted us to take. I nodded, laughed at the right moments, even fed her a forkful of dessert like some perfect doting husband. And every time her wrist moved, flashing those 2 cursed letters under the candlelight, a quiet, grim new thought rooted itself inside me. Who the hell is JT? The valet pulled the car around. She leaned into me as we waited, her head against my shoulder like old times. I kissed the top of her head automatically. She smelled like gardenias and lies. Driving home, she slipped off her heels, talking about some spa package her coworker recommended. Something about a weekend away for self-care. She turned to me, smiling too wide. You should do something for yourself too, babe, she said. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles white against the leather. I will, I said, voice steady. Soon. That night, after she fell asleep, or pretended to, I sat in the dark living room, bracelet box still in my hand. I turned it over and over, feeling the weight of it, like it could anchor me to something real. When had I lost her? Or worse, had I ever really had her at all? I stared out the window into the black sky, feeling something inside me settle. Not break, not rage. Settle. I wouldn't confront her tonight. Wouldn't blow everything up without knowing exactly what game I was playing. Because one thing was clear now. Vanessa was playing a role. And if she was going to fake her part, then so could I. Better even. The night swallowed the house whole, and I sat there, planning, while my wife, my beautiful, lying wife, slept 2 rooms away, dreaming God knows what dreams. The next morning, Vanessa acted like nothing had changed. She hummed while making coffee, hair pulled up messily, wearing one of my old t-shirts like it still meant something. She kissed my cheek on her way out the door, tossing a "Love you" over her shoulder. I stared after her for a long time, coffee mug frozen halfway to my lips, wondering when that phrase had stopped meaning anything and started sounding like a reflex. The second the door clicked shut, I moved. Not wildly, not destructively. I was methodical, surgical. First stop, her vanity drawer. She was careless there, always had been. I found the gold bracelet tucked under a pile of old receipts and makeup brushes. I held it up to the morning light. The letters glinted back at me, crisp and undeniable. JT. I turned it over, searching for anything else. There, a date, almost too small to see without angling it right. 4 of 23, last month, 4 weeks ago. Now the story had a timeline. I put it back exactly how I found it, every hair in place, every brush tilted just so. She couldn't know I was watching. I wasn't going to stumble into the truth. I was going to build it. Every brick, every nail, every ugly little secret she thought she could hide. The first real clue came that afternoon. Vanessa texted me from yoga, telling me not to wait up for dinner. Same routine as always, cheerful, detached, guiltless. But when I pulled up our shared credit card account, a different story told itself. There it was, a dinner charge at Le Jardin, a place either of us could afford without a special occasion. 2 entrees, 2 drinks, a tip fat enough to drip guilt from every line item. Yoga class, huh? I closed the browser and leaned back in my chair, listening to the hum of the empty house. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern. Over the next week, I became someone else entirely. Polite, attentive, smiling when she came home, asking about her day, offering to rub her shoulders while she typed out texts she was way too eager to hide. Inside, though, I was mapping the battlefield. Every transaction, every excuse, every flicker of guilt that passed too quickly across her face when she thought I wasn't looking. I learned her rhythms better than I ever had when I thought we were happy. The Tuesday, spin class, that ended with a rideshare receipt 2 neighborhoods over. The Thursday, client dinner, that somehow didn't match her office's posted hours. The Saturday she left with an overnight bag packed a little too carefully for a day trip. She was sloppy. Worse, she thought I was stupid enough to miss it. And that, somehow, hurt more than the betrayal itself. By the end of the second week, I had names, dates, receipts, digital fingerprints smeared across the life we were supposed to be building together. The name on the rideshare pickup? James Turner. JT. I leaned back from the computer, heart hammering, a dry laugh catching in my throat. James Turner. The guy she'd mentioned once. A coworker from her old job, the one who moved away. Guess he'd moved back. Guess he'd moved straight into her bed. The final nail came from her Instagram, of all places, buried in a carousel post about girls' night. Drinks was a reflection, 2 glasses on the table, and across from her, a sliver of a man's jacket sleeve. Navy blue. Subtle pinstripe. Corporate. Professional. Nothing like the ratty t-shirt she claimed her girls wore on casual hangouts. Nothing like what she thought I'd notice. I stared at that photo for a long, long time, the rage blooming cold and precise inside me. She thought she was untouchable. She thought she could parade her betrayal in plain sight and I'd still play the fool. Fine. Let her believe that. Because while she was busy digging her own grave, I was sharpening the nails for the coffin. The real question wasn't if she was cheating anymore. It was how loudly I wanted to let the world hear the truth. I wasn't going to scream it from the rooftops. No. I was going to set it in motion so quietly, so elegantly, that by the time Vanessa realized she was standing on a trapdoor, it would already be swinging open beneath her. I needed a stage. An audience. And just like that, the idea hit me so hard I laughed out loud in the empty house. Her promotion party. The one she'd been planning for months, practically frothing at the mouth to show off her new title, new status, new perfect life to friends, family, bosses. It would be her night, her crowning moment. And it would also be the night I took all of it away. Not with violence, not with screaming, with truth, with proof, with every lie she thought she'd hidden dressed up and paraded in front of everyone she cared about. It wouldn't just hurt. It would destroy her in the exact way she had tried to destroy me. Silently, publicly, permanently. The next few days were a blur of planning. I collected screenshots, pulled statements, gathered timestamp photos, built a presentation so airtight even the slimiest spin wouldn't save her. I paid a tech guy cash under the table to rig the venue's projector system to my phone. One click, and the whole show would roll. Every secret she thought she'd buried. They'd all dance across that screen. And she'd be trapped in front of it, smiling through the first few slides, not knowing the guillotine was already dropping. I couldn't wait to see her face when she realized. Not because I wanted to see her suffer, but because for once, just once, she would have to stand in the ruins she built, all on her own. The night of Vanessa's promotion party. Inside the event hall, everything was perfectly polished. Vanessa moved through the room like a queen surveying her kingdom. She wore a tight black dress that clung in all the right places, hair curled just loose enough to look effortless. She laughed, tossed her head, shook hands with the higher-ups like she already belonged at the top of the food chain. If she noticed me lingering by the AV booth, she didn't show it. Good. Stay blind, sweetheart. I nodded at the tech guy I'd paid off. He gave me a tiny thumbs up behind the projector curtain. The show was loaded, synced to my phone. One tap, and her world would start slipping sideways. I felt calm. Too calm. Like a man waiting in a foxhole, counting the seconds before the first shell hits. The ceremony started slow, long speeches about growth, leadership, potential. Vanessa beamed under the praise, soaking it up like a flower turning to the sun. I sipped my drink, heart rate steady, letting it all unfold. When her boss called her to the stage, everyone clapped, a few people even whooped. Vanessa took the mic, eyes glistening with emotion. I couldn't have done this without my amazing support system, she said, voice thick with fake humility. My colleagues, my mentors, and most importantly, my wonderful husband, who has stood by me through everything. She smiled straight at me. Wide. Triumphant. Practiced. I smiled back. Then, as the applause started again, I slipped my phone out of my pocket. My thumb hovered over the play button. For a half-second, I hesitated. Not because I doubted she deserved it, but because once I did this, there would be no going back. No salvaging anything. Not even the ashes. Then I remembered the other bracelet, flashing under candlelight. Remembered the lies. The insults to my intelligence. The quiet, smiling betrayal every single day since. I pressed the button. It started so softly no one noticed. The big screen behind Vanessa flickered to life, a slideshow beginning to roll. At first, it matched the mood, photos of her at work, shaking hands, laughing at office events. She turned around, smiling at the images. Pride shimmered on her face. Then, the photos changed. One grainy picture of her at Le Jardin, leaning across a table toward a man whose face was barely out of frame. Another clearer, showing the same jacket sleeve I'd seen in her Instagram post. The reflection in the wine glass, unmistakable. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Vanessa turned back to the audience, confused. A small wrinkle formed between her eyebrows. The next slide. Screenshots of text messages. Vanessa, can't wait to see you again. Last night was perfect. Love you, Jay. James Turner, you're all I think about. There was no mistaking her name at the top of the chat. None. I watched her shoulders stiffen, her hand falter on the microphone. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Gasps echoed through the room. Chairs scraped back. Someone dropped a drink, a sharp, shattering sound like a gunshot. Another text flashed up. A time-stamped location share, pinged from her phone to his, reading. Leaving now, can't wait to be in your arms. The date? The night she told me she was at yoga. I caught the eye of her boss, standing frozen near the stage, jaw slack. The room tipped fully into chaos now. Murmurs turning into full-on whispers, heads turning, eyes wide, phones slipping out as people started taking pictures, recording, texting. Vanessa dropped the microphone. The heavy thud of it hitting the floor broke the trance. She whipped around, scanning the crowd like she was looking for some invisible exit. Her eyes locked on mine. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I saw real emotion on her face. Not the rehearsed smiles, not the weaponized tears. Something raw, desperate, primal. Fear. Good. Let her feel it. She stumbled down the steps, heels catching herself awkwardly on a table. People parted around her like she was radioactive. I stayed planted near the back wall, calm, detached, almost clinical. When she finally made it to me, she hissed under her breath. What the hell are you doing? I looked at her bracelet, the one I'd given her, still gleaming on her wrist. I looked at the one hidden under it, the gold. The initials, the lie. I leaned in close enough for only her to hear. Giving you exactly what you deserve. Her hand shot out, grabbing my arm. Please don't do this. We can fix it. We can. I pulled my arm free, slow and deliberate. No, I said quietly. We can't. She opened her mouth again, but before she could spin another lie, another excuse, another plea, I turned away from her. Walked through the room full of wide eyes and shattered illusions, my footsteps echoing off the marble floor like gunshots, and I didn't look back, not once. When I stepped outside, the rain hit me in the face like a baptism. Cold, clean, honest. I stood there for a second, letting it soak through my jacket, my shirt, my skin, until I didn't feel the weight of her betrayal anymore. Until it was just me again. Just me. Breathing. Alive. The rain kept falling, but I didn't move. I stood there on the curb, feeling it soak through my clothes. Behind me, the party had imploded. I imagined the scene, Vanessa trying to explain, stammering through some half-baked lie about friendship or misunderstandings, while faces she once counted as allies turned cold and skeptical. Reputation, status, career, all of it slipping through her fingers faster than she could grab. I pictured her alone on that stage she fought so hard to reach, crumbling under a weight she thought she could outrun. It should have felt triumphant. Instead, it felt clean, final, like a bad tooth finally pulled from the bone. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it right away. I knew who it would be. Sure enough, when I finally pulled it out, her name lit up the screen. Vanessa. Missed calls, voicemails piling up like desperate notes in a bottle tossed into the ocean. I didn't listen to them. I didn't need to. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and flagged down a cab. When I gave the driver my address, he glanced at me through the rearview mirror, probably wondering why some guy in a soaked button-down and 1,000-yard stare needed a ride across town at 10 p.m. He didn't ask. Smart man. The house was dark when I got there. Fitting. I peeled off my wet jacket, dropped it by the door, walked through the empty living room, every step sounding too loud in the quiet. Photos of us still lined the mantel, frozen smiles, tropical vacations, fake happiness embalmed behind glass. I took one down, turned it face down, not in anger, not in sadness, just because it didn't belong anymore. None of it did. The first voicemail finally broke through when I sat on the couch, staring at nothing. Ben, please. Vanessa's voice sobbed through the speaker, raw and broken. Please, just talk to me. I know you're hurt, I know I messed up, but we can fix this. Please don't throw us away. Us. Like the words still meant anything. Another message came through, more frantic this time. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just got out of control. It didn't mean anything. You're the one I love, Ben, please, you have to believe that. I stared at the phone until the screen went dark. It didn't mean anything. Funny, how people always said that after the wreckage was already done. Like it made the crash easier to walk away from if you pretended the impact was just an accident. But it wasn't an accident. It was a series of choices. Deliberate. Repeated. She chose him. Over and over and over again. And now she could live with it. I slept better that night than I had in months. No tossing. No turning. No wondering if I was crazy, or paranoid, or ungrateful. The silence wasn't lonely. It was freedom. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight sliced through the windows in sharp golden beams, illuminating the house in a way I hadn't seen in years. Like it was waking up too. I brewed coffee, sat at the kitchen island, pulled out my laptop, and I started moving. First, I closed the shared bank accounts. Everything we built together, frozen, pending separation. Then I contacted the divorce lawyer I'd already quietly hired 2 weeks earlier. Is it time? She asked, voice calm, efficient. It's time, I said. Within hours, papers were filed, documents drafted. I attached the evidence I'd collected, dates, photos, financial inconsistencies. Vanessa wouldn't be getting a penny more than the law required. No sympathy settlements. No second chances. Just the cold, legal reality she'd earned. She showed up that evening. Banged on the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Ben! Open the damn door! Please! I finished my beer in the kitchen, listening to her through the wood like it was a distant storm I had no intention of walking into. Ben, please! Just talk to me! You can't just shut me out! I could. I was. I opened the door just enough to see her standing there, hair frizzy from the humidity, mascara running down her cheeks in dark rivers. For a second, she looked like the woman I used to love. Then she opened her mouth, and the spell broke. I was under a lot of pressure, she blurted, voice shrill. You weren't there, Ben. You were always working, always stressed. I needed someone who made me feel alive again. Alive. As if my devotion, my sacrifices, my quiet patience hadn't counted as living. I locked eyes with her, unblinking. No, I said. You needed someone who wouldn't call you out when you decided your promises didn't matter. She stepped forward, reaching for me. I stepped back. Don't, I said, voice low. Her hand dropped like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I made a mistake, she whispered, tears dripping down her face. Please, let's fix this. I shook my head, almost pitying her. You didn't make a mistake, Vanessa. You made a choice. And now? I was making mine. I closed the door slowly, carefully, locking it behind me. She stayed on the porch a long time after that, crying, begging, pleading. But I didn't open it again. Not once. The funny thing about betrayal is, it doesn't burn you up in one massive fireball like the movies show. It's quieter, more surgical. It cuts the cord between you and the person you loved, one fiber at a time, until one day you realize the rope is gone and you're just standing there holding the frayed end, wondering how you didn't feel it snap. I felt it now, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something else too. Hope. Not for her. Not for us. For me. For whatever, and whoever, came next. The calls stopped after 3 days. No more pleading voicemails. No more sobbing texts. No more furious, self-righteous paragraphs blaming me for her own destruction. Just silence. The kind that creeps in after a bomb goes off and the dust settles over the ruins. I thought I'd feel relief when she finally gave up. Instead, what I felt was something colder. Sharper. Confirmation. Word spread fast. It started with whispered rumors at her company. A few, concerned coworkers, some anonymous screenshots leaked to HR. It wasn't hard. I'd made sure of that. I didn't smear her. Didn't embellish. All I did was nudge the truth into the right hands and let gravity do the rest. By the end of the week, Vanessa was quietly placed on administrative leave, pending investigation. They didn't fire her outright. Corporate never does at first, but they cut her access, changed her passwords, moved her out of key accounts. In our town, in her world, that was as good as a scarlet letter. You don't come back from that. Not really. I heard most of it secondhand. Mutual friends who texted awkward half-sympathies they didn't really mean. Snippets of gossip at the bar when people thought I wasn't listening. Did you hear what happened with Vanessa? Yeah, caught red-handed. She and that James guy, so messy. I didn't correct any of it. Didn't defend her. Didn't defend myself. Let them talk. Let them stitch together their own story from the scraps she left behind. I was busy living. The first thing I did was change the locks on the house. I paid a local contractor cash to install a new security system too. Cameras, motion sensors, the works. Not because I thought Vanessa would do something reckless, but because I needed that line, clear and bright and absolute. This is not your home anymore. This is not your life anymore. I cleaned out the bedroom next. Tossed her clothes into black garbage bags without ceremony. Sweaters I'd bought her for anniversaries. Dresses she'd worn on vacations we could barely afford back then. Shoes she bragged about on Instagram like trophies. It all went into the guest room closet. Out of sight. Out of mind. When I stripped the bed and pulled off the sheets, I found one of her earrings jammed between the mattress and the frame. Tiny. Delicate. Diamond. I held it for a second, turning it between my fingers, feeling how something so small could feel so heavy. Then I dropped it into a drawer without a second thought. Let her ask for it back. Let her come looking. She wouldn't find what she left behind here. Not anymore. The nights got easier. Not all at once. Not some magic Hollywood healing montage, but little by little. I'd sit out on the back porch with a beer, watch the sun sink low over the trees, and realize I wasn't waiting for anyone anymore. Wasn't wondering if she'd call. Wasn't wondering if I should forgive her. Wasn't wondering if I'd ever feel whole again. Because I did feel whole. Not fixed. Just unbroken. Different. Stronger. About 2 weeks after the party, I ran into James Turner. Total accident. I was picking up lumber from the hardware store for a renovation project when I saw him across the parking lot, loading mulch into the back of his overpriced SUV. At first, he didn't notice me. Too busy barking into his phone, pacing like some Wall Street burnout. But when he finally looked up and saw me standing there, something in his face crumpled. Fear, guilt, recognition, all mashed together into one beautiful, silent beat of panic. I didn't say a word, just stared at him. Let him feel it. Let him sit there, squirming in his own skin, while the rain started spitting down from the clouds again, slow and heavy. He muttered something, maybe an apology, maybe just the wind leaving his body, and stumbled into his car, slamming the door harder than necessary. I watched him peel out of the lot like a man running from his own shadow, and for the first time since that night on the rooftop I laughed. Not loud, not cruel, just a small, sharp laugh that cut through the storm. Because there it was, plain as day. They weren't happy. They weren't thriving. They weren't building some beautiful life together while I rotted. They were exactly what they deserved to be. Miserable, lonely, haunted. Back at home, I pulled out the divorce documents. All they needed was my signature to finalize the terms. The house? Mine. The savings? Protected. The life she thought she could wreck and walk away from? Still standing. I grabbed a pen. Signed the papers. Date, initials, final signature. It felt like closing the door on a burning building, not realizing until you're safely on the street how hot the flames really were. That night, I slept with the windows open. No alarms. No secrets lurking in the dark. Just the clean, honest air moving through the house like a blessing. And somewhere, deep down, I realized something even bigger than the revenge, bigger than the justice. I wasn't surviving her betrayal anymore. I was leaving it behind.